today is the 7-year anniversary of the brutal killing of Saudi dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi. If you guys are familiar with him, it's probably because of the fact that he was brutally killed at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. He was lured there to get some paperwork for the man was trying to get married, guys. He was trying to get married. He needed paperwork from the Saudi consulate. They snuck in a bone saw and chopped him to pieces and carried him out in suitcases. And the reason why was because he was an outspoken critic from Saudi Arabia of Saudi Arabia's active genocide of the Yemeni people. He was outspoken. He came out, and really risked his own life. He had to flee Saudi Arabia to Istanbul, where he thought he was going to be safe, but they ended up capturing him there. He published works in the Washington Post being hypercritical of the Saudi policy. If you guys remember, around that time, Ro Khanna and Rand Paul actually co-sponsored legislation. It was bipartisan in the House and Senate. And it was actually brought all the way to Donald Trump's desk in 2018 to end the United States support for that brutal genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Yemeni people. Donald Trump unilaterally vetoed it. And so, unfortunately, we did continue to supply them with arms. But it is on this man's passing, the anniversary of this man's passing, that the entire Riyadh Comedy Festival takes place. Pretty disgusting, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's going on right now. Pretty wild. And there's a lot more fallout than I think some of these comedians expected from the Riyadh Comedy Festival, Zach. I think a lot of them thought they'd kind of get away with it. No one would care. Who knows? Maybe they thought people were so focused on Israel right now that no one would remember how fucked up Saudi Arabia is too. But I see actually a surprising amount of backlash on social media for this. A lot of people seem to have just realized about it and the ethical, moral implications for these comedians. I'm seeing, Bill Burr specifically get a lot of shit for what some people say is basically him ruining his entire reputation over this paycheck. Pretty intense stuff. Obviously, I feel just as pissed off about the other comedians, but I guess I just expected more from them, people like Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle, stuff like that, whereas Bill Burr is someone who, as we've talked about, has really repped a lot of moral positions recently. So huge disappointment. And like I said, I think that some comedians speaking out, we talked about that one guy yesterday, that the whole comment section shamed us for not knowing who he was because we were born in 1998.
That show got canceled the year we were born. Yeah
exactly. So either what's his name, David Cross or something?
David Cross, yeah.
David Cross, yeah. Him, a bunch of other people have been coming out and talking about this, calling out these comedians for participating. And like I said, I feel like it's really pierced the mainstream. I have to imagine that people like Bill Burr actually at this point do regret their decision to go to Saudi Arabia and take this paycheck. I mean, I'm sure the money's nice. I'm sure they can dry their tears with the wads of cash. But still, when you're going to sleep at night, all the money in the world isn't going to stop those intrusive thoughts from reminding you of what you've really done and the blood that's on your hands.
Oh, 100%. He has to be regretting it. And it's so clearly against everything he stood for as a comedian. It's very out of character that he would do this. And Gavin, I actually pulled a 30-second old clip from prime Bill Burr from about 15 years ago when this guy was a straight up monster. Okay, when he really had his ducks in a row before he decided to sell out for blood money. Okay, before he didn't care about anything, before he decided, hey, I'm just going to act like I have principles. I'm not going to actually embody them. Well, back in the day, this was what Bill Burr had to say about people who sold out for a check. I don't know if you've seen this clip, but it's from about 15 years ago. And he's talking about how shameful it is for performers to go and do private parties for people like Gaddafi.
Ooh, let's check this out. And some people say Gaddafi was kind of based, right? I don't know much about him, but people say he was trying to like create a United States of Africa and stuff, and that's why they killed him. I don't know if I believe it, but that's what I've heard.
He did try and create a United. He also did a lot of other things. So mixed bag.
That's every world leader, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Usher, Beyonce, and Mariah Carey actually did private New Year's gigs for $1 million. Did New Year's gigs for Gaddafi's kids. Can you fucking believe that? How much fucking money do you need to make? You're going to take a gig where you're going to go dance like a goddamn fucking clown for a mass murderer's kids? And then you take that fucking blood money. And what he's done, you couldn't remember that he claimed he was behind the Pan Am bombings that killed fellow Americans? The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, Gavin.
Love the show. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival.
And then obviously it goes back to him. He's going to literally right here. We played it yesterday, but we can play it one more time for people. He's going to praise the royal family. It's pretty disgusting.
Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. And
hold on.
Everyone was wrong with you. The Royals loved the show. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. And it was just this great positive thing.
Sure.
Why would the people putting on the show not be thrilled? They successfully bought all your asses off. But that is crazy with the clip of him, roasting, what was it, Beyonce? First of all, I didn't even know that they performed for Gaddafi's kids. What?
So randomly, I actually did know that. I did know that because she got paid like $1 million for it. And it's come up on Twitter a few times whenever anybody tries to portray Beyonce as like a radical or like a leader of some kind. They'll be like, remember when she performed for Gaddafi's kids? So that was the one.
Some people would say that would make her even more radical.
True. Yeah. Take that, galaxy brain.
Because like I said, a lot of tankies fucking love Gaddafi. I've seen a bunch of tankies like worshiping Gaddafi. And to be honest, I don't know enough about the man to really have an opinion. I'm sure he did terrible things.
Anthony Bourdain did a really critical episode about him one time. So I do know he was responsible for some fucked up things. I'm not saying he deserved to be raped and killed in the street like we all saw happen on video. I'm not saying Hillary Clinton should have gone in and destroyed the guy's country. Right. Okay. Obviously that was uncalled for, but to go so far as to say he was based, I don't know about that.
Sure. I don't know much about him, but either way, that is just crazy, shocking hypocrisy. Because at least the Gaddafi thing, theoretically it was at a private event for those people, the children of Gaddafi. And again, I don't approve of it. I'm not saying I would fucking take that money, obviously. But at least, I don't know, it's more of a private performance. This is like literally like the whitewashing of Saudi Arabia, the comedy festival. Like, come here and whitewash our image for $1 bajillion and then go on your podcast afterwards and talk about how kind the royals were and how clean the streets were and how, cheap the food at the grocery store was. Obviously, that didn't actually happen. That was a reference to the Tucker Carlson and Moscow video. But, it is approaching that level of propaganda, specifically when we took a look at that other comedian yesterday, whose name escapes me.
Stefano.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm already thinking about moving to. I want to become a Saudi citizen. I might find me a nice Saudi gal. Come on down here. And that is the thing. It's like, I feel like some people in America don't realize this, but a lot of these celebrity types and the elite class, they already hang out in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. Like, I think Rihanna lives in the UAE or something like that. A bunch of these types have moved over there and set up shop. And another one of the major like 2000 celebrities, I think, moved there too. Maybe it was like Britney Spears or something. I forget. But either way, like this is already kind of a hot spot for elites, regardless of nationality. And a lot of Americans just don't really know the extent of that. So I feel like when people like Bill Burr agreed to do this, they were just like, oh yeah, like, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, like these are places that my friends hang out constantly. It's not going to shock anyone that I agreed to be in a comedy festival here. Well, it did.
Yeah, people are pissed, and particularly for the reasons we've laid out, people are pissed at Bill Burr, but it also goes against what all of these supposed free speech warriors have been talking about. All of these comics that are billed across the board, Andrew Schultz, Tim Dillon was on there until he, used his free speech a little too much, and then he got booted off. But all these guys, right? They talk about how, we're the philosophers of our time. Comedians are the only truth tellers. They're the modern day intellectuals for the working man. They love to celebrate themselves. They love to blow smoke up their ass. They love to stroke their own cocks and make themselves feel good. But when the rubber hits the road, they are prepared to run cover for a bloody fascist, I guess, what's it even called? Monarchical. It's not even fascist. It's straight up theocratic monarchy. Yeah. They're doing cover for those guys because they don't want anybody to give attention to Jamal Khashoggi's death, a guy who was actually using his free speech, a guy who was an actual revolutionary, an actual freedom fighter, and a legitimate dissident, and not the kind of dissident that you clowns pretend to be. And for Bill Burr to go out on his podcast, it was a couple days ago, he goes out and he does his Monday morning podcast like he does every week. And he talks about how he was willing to completely shear down his entire stand-up set. It wasn't like he took a principled stand and he was like, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to say whatever I want. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to deliver Bill Burr stand-up and I'm going to show these people what's up. He didn't even have the balls to do that. He didn't even have the simple backbone to say you hire Bill Burr, you get Bill Burr, right? No, he was talking about how he was willing to say, oh, I'm going to cut out any part of my bit about proctology. I won't say anything about the royal family. Oh, I won't say anything about religion. I won't mock the culture here. I'm not going to swear if I can avoid it. He volunteered all of that information to his audience while continuously celebrating Saudi Arabia, talking about, oh yeah, you can actually go to this other cool part of across the Bay Area, man, and then you can drink alcohol and you don't have to follow any of the weird Saudi rules, unless you're a slave, unless you're a fucking subjugate.
I was talking about Bahrain, right?
Bahrain, exactly. It's crazy. It's so fucking pathetic for a guy like Bill Burr, a blue-collar comedian who is supposed to be, the loudmouth. I'm going to say the fucking quiet part out loud. I'm going to cut the fucking shit and get in there. He's like, no, I was totally willing to cape for these people. Just show me the barrel to bend over and I'll grab my fucking ankles and spread my ass cheeks for you.
Yeah. Also, this might be in reference to the same audio that we reacted to, Zach, but I do see this article about Bill Burr pushing back against criticism from fans and fellow comedians for his decision to perform. So let's see if this includes the audio that we talked about, but it says this was during the September 29th episode.
That's from the one we reacted to.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you think everyone's going to be screaming death to America and they're going to have effing machetes and want to chop your head off, Burr said, because that's what I've been fed about that part of the world. And again, yeah, we reacted to that audio, but just to reiterate, it's such a lazy fucking analysis. Like no one is saying, I can't believe that you escaped with your life. No, of course, you being a super rich fucking celebrity, of course, you're going to be totally fine. It's the people that like work in the hotels that you're staying at and that built the fucking comedy coliseum that you performed at and all that shit. They are literally slaves. You can watch whole videos about this, but people are shipped in from the fucking third world, from Bangladesh and fucking, India and Africa and stuff like that. They're shipped to Saudi Arabia. They're shipped to Dubai. These companies take their passports immediately. They immediately confiscate their passport, never give it back, basically meaning that the workers aren't allowed to leave. Then after the day's work is over, which is usually like 12 hours of grueling fucking underpaid labor, then they're bussed out to basically like a concentration camp in the middle of the desert, 45 minutes to an hour away from the tourist centers, where they literally live in squalor, like 4, 5, 6 people in one small room, no access to clean water. It is literal modern day slavery. There's no other way to put it. So, for Bill Burr to kind of straw man that and just be like, oh, like they must hate America. Like, that's not even the fucking criticism, bro. At least actually answer for the criticism here. And that's not even to get into the treatment of women in Saudi Arabia and political dissidents in places like Saudi Arabia. We talk about like Sharia law and stuff, but it's actually low-key true in places like that. If you get caught like stealing or something, they'll send you to a fucking dungeon. You'll become one of those fucking slaves. It's not an exaggeration, right? You get caught, doing drugs or having gay sex or something like that. The punishment is fucking severe. This is seriously not a developed place.
100%. And he literally says that, you think everybody's going to be screaming death to America and they're going to have like fucking machetes and want to chop my head off. Not you, but as Gavin mentioned, legitimate dissidents. And again, 7 years ago today, the reason this fucking festival is happening over this stretch of time, Bill, was so you could participate in the cover-up of this brutal, butchery. Khashoggi in October of 2018, the second, entered the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul to obtain documents related to his planned marriage. Amid news reports claiming that he had been dismembered with a bone saw inside the consulate, he was declared a missing person. Saudi Arabian and Turkish officials inspected the consulate on October 15th, during which Turkish officials found evidence that Khashoggi had been killed and that chemical experts had tampered with the evidence. In November of 2018, it was concluded that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had ordered Khashoggi's assassination. In June of 2019, following a 6-month independent investigation, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights released a 101-page report holding the state of Saudi Arabia responsible for the premeditated extrajudicial execution of Khashoggi. Okay? Yeah, they did butcher that guy to fucking pieces, and now you get to fucking take their blood money and crack a joke about it? Fuck you.
That was 7 years ago, bro. I don't know why you're holding that against this country. Are you being racist against Muslims? This is crazy, bro. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. But yeah, it's genuinely insane that Bill Burr thought he could get away with this. Again, I have lots of, I'm pissed off at the other comedians too. They're all fucking worthless pieces of shit. But specifically Bill Burr, we've given him a lot of credit on this show. We've really held him up as like, maybe he's the left-wing Joe Rogan. Maybe he's the, liberal antidote to some of this annoying brosphere nonsense that we're up against. This is definitely a point against him. And that's not to say, he's canceled and he's like dead to me. Again, if he puts out a special like a year in the future or something, like I'm not gonna be all petulant about it. But as you said the other day, I probably would think twice about paying to see him live and supporting his comedy career in a seriously material way, unless he actually apologizes for this and explains himself. Because it's totally unforgivable. And it's just another example of a totally cowardly celebrity selling out for a little bit of extra money so they can have another pair of shoes.